You're here to find your voice. We're here today with Arthur Sweetman to discuss Alexa for musicians, data collection. So, Arthur, you were just telling me the purpose of this meeting was to understand data more. Can you tell me more?
We want to figure out what data we want to collect in the Firebase.
Let me stop this real quick. I just realized the names are going to be all wrong. Collection with Alexa for musicians. Joining us is Arthur Sweetman. Arthur, welcome to the show.
Hi.
So you were just talking about the goal. What is our goal for today in terms of data collection?
Yep, we want to figure out what data we want to collect into our database.
Cool. Maybe a good place to start is to share your screen and talk about the design that you have so far for the visualization for the musician dashboard.
All right, can you see it?
It is loading. I still see you, so let me figure out how to change this layout. Yes, now I see it.
Cool. This is just a general dashboard that I wrote up for.
Right now I see your Google Hangouts screen. I'm not sure if you have two screens.
Let me try again. Oh, okay.
There we go. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So this is just a general dashboard I drew up that a musician would be able to see. So it's got a bunch of information, and I kind of want to see what kind of data we can collect. To see like if there's anything more we could add, anything we could change. But yeah, so we like the total users, unique users, that won't be hard at all. Neither will this activity. And I'm pretty sure this usage, like how long people use it for, is an easy data value to report. I don't know if we can look at locations of where people are using their Alexa app. If we can, I think it would be kind of cool for musicians to be able to see where people are using their experience from. So like if they're in Columbus and they have a decent Columbus reach, then they'll see a large concentration in Columbus. But then if they start seeing people using their app outside of Columbus, say in like Cincinnati, Cleveland, or Chicago, or Indy, that'd be pretty neat to know that they have fans in that area.
Agreed.
And then I thought it'd be neat for musicians to know where they're reaching out the most. So where in the most traffic for people to find out their experience on Alexa.
So that would be like what? Where were they immediately before discovering the skill?
Yeah, because that could help them figure out how to better advertise their skill, how to better advertise themselves.
And the top middle graph is how long people use the experience for?
Yeah.
Length.
Yeah, just like a distribution of how many users are using it for like 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds.
And that So that first point we can collect, we can get a reading at the start and then a reading at the end, and then just
Mhm.
subtract those two from each other to get the total length.
Yep. Yeah.
Start minus end. Okay. The activity on week, month, year. So my one. Do you have questions before I ask questions? What?
No.
Okay. So my first question is activity. What goes into that graph of week, month, year? All is that okay? So it looks like users is what the y-axis is, and date is the
Yeah.
x.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's
So the only
activity.
data we would need for this is um, if every data point was was data on one person using the experience,
Mm-hmm.
then that's all we need, because that'll have a date associated with it, and obviously that's one user.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that's like all we need is if every observation was one person using one experience, then that's all we need. All we need is a date variable associated with it, a date time, which I would imagine would be in there by default.
The date time.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That's something that Node.js, our JavaScript will give us a date time. So I'm thinking there are two ways to collect. So right now we're using SMAPI. We're using the Skill Manifest API, otherwise abbreviated to SMAPI, and we're pulling that data once a day. Now this will require more data than what we are currently doing. We'll need it on a user basis instead of just on a day basis, and we'll need some pieces of information that the Skill Manifest API is not providing.
Mm-hmm.
So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, there are two ways that we can try to get this data. We can either stand on the shoulders of giants and follow that philosophy of not recreating the wheel and finding something that already exists that we can pull data from, or alternatively doing the manual data entry where we go into the code base, we manually report this data into Firebase, and then you're able to pull it from there. So I'm going to grab screen share, and let's check out something called Dashpot.
Okay.
So Dashpot is a tool that was created relatively recently, and we have kind of worked with them on the framework that we use. Try it for free. Let's see what their pricing is if they have it. Pricing. So let's see what we can get for free. For individual developers experimenting with chatbots and voice skills, for startups and innovative teams who want to build in enterprises, they have no... Okay. Free plan. Top messages and utterances, exit messages, live transcripts, archived transcripts, transcript search, sentiment analysis. So these are all conversational analytics. So they've got conversational analytics, NLP optimization, engagement and retention, demographics, user behavior, comparison metric, tools to take action, other, and limits. So I'm honestly not super. Let's see what their documentation says. Amazon Alexa. Wonder, do they have Jovo, Node.js, webhook, Control F Jovo? I'm pretty sure Jovo has an integration. Jovo is the programming language we use in our backend, so I believe that they have a marketplace now. They should have a marketplace. There it is. And in their marketplace should be analytics tools, clients, natural language, database, handling, testing, monitoring. Okay, so here's a bunch of monitoring tools that exist, including Google Analytics, Dashpot, which is what we're looking at right now, Chatbase, Bot Analytics, errors to email. So that would just be errors, and errors does not sound like what we're looking for. Google Analytics, can fulfill intent requests, Sentry monitoring, and voxelize. User acquisition analytics. All right, so Dashpot is conversational analytics. Chatbase is virtual agent analytics. And then bot analytics is add conversational analytics. Looks like Dashpot has 10,000 downloads, Chatbase has 7.5, and bot analytics has also 7.5 projects with them integrated. I'm going to click on all these so we can see. I hope these don't just take me to their website. Okay. Create a Dashpot in Jovo, blah, 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 installation. Create a Dashpot account or log in. Copy the API key, enable Dashpot in Jovo, download the app, put the plugin in. Cool. And then that'll export it all to Dashpot's dashboard. But we really don't want it exported to Dashpot's dashboard. We want it. We want them to have it, and then we can, I guess, query that. Chatbase, build your best virtual agent. They misspelled. Conversational products that is built by Area 120, an incubator by Google. Chat-based analytics, you can measure bot metrics, analyze user behavior, and optimize the experience with transcripts and suggested intents. Install, create a chat-based agent, fill in information about bot name and such, copy the API key. Install it. Enable the plugin. Add configurations, test chat-based. It can take up to 6 hours until all data can be seen in a chat-based dashboard. And then finally, bot analytics. Variety of channels like Facebook Messenger, Twitter, Telegram, more. Live transcripts, track performance across channels, and do intent analysis. So right now I'm trying to figure out if these are useful for us or if they're not useful for us between these three.
And these will just be how this is basically the data retrieval tools.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, these are plugins that these companies have made to retrieve data and then import them into their platform to visualize and give those analytics.
Okay.
My biggest question is, do they have some sort of API so that we can pull that data into our own database? Or is their entire end goal that we view the data inside of Dashpot and view the data inside of Chatbase and view the data inside of bot analytics? Because if that's the case, that really doesn't help us.
No.
Chatbase. Let's look up Chatbase.
What did you say we're using right now?
Right now we're using SMAPI. So that's provided by Amazon. Skill Manifest API. Samir provided documentation on that right here. Skill Metrics FAQ. We're getting skill metrics, but the skill metrics FAQ might tell us what a Control F failed. No, I don't know. I don't know why Samir sent that to us.
Oh, because I asked him for some kind of API for the data we have right now, and this is what he sent.
Yeah, you wanted some documentation.
Yeah, it didn't look like they had any official documentation, but that covered most of it.
Okay. Well, so I'm kind of thinking right now we'll want to create our own Jovo plugin. Or maybe a component. Oh, no, never mind. These are cool. Conduct a survey, schedule a meeting, get a phone number. That's actually really cool. Where's plugins? Stop giving me that. Plugin. Jovo plugins. You can build your own plugins. Introduction. Setup. I guess to start, we'll just want it to be a middleware hook. Yeah, we'll want it to be a middleware hook to put that in. So I'm shifting away from wanting to use these. I'm afraid of going with one of them because I feel like it might make us dependent on them and to their ecosystem. And at the end of the day, they will control our data instead of us controlling the data.
Right. Makes sense.
All right, so let's go back to your image. I'm going to stop presenting and let's shift back to you. Let's keep going down the manual route instead of using a bot analytics, a conversational analytics tool.
Okay.
Okay, so while you're here, I'm pulling up Firebase to see if we're already getting any of these data points, but let's just talk about what are we already getting and what are we not getting that we need to discuss how we want to retrieve and implement a solution to start retrieving that data.
Yeah.
Musician AI. I'm on Firebase. I'm going to... Oh, I'm streaming the screen so everybody can see it. So, you know what? I will take over because everybody can already see it.
Okay.
Let me know if you can see.
I can see, yeah.
Alright, so we'll check out AlvaMU because she is number 1 in the world. So for AlvaMU, we have config, imports, interfaces, media, modules, and fulfilled daily sessions, monthly sessions, total sessions. I think total sessions is one that you have on there.
Yeah.
Okay, so total sessions, it looks like we are already pulling, and that should be available for every single one. Who's another one that I can check? It's I think today's his birthday, actually. Static Rez's birthday is today. Total sessions, 24. Yeah, so total sessions are an attribute that's already stored in here. So you can pull it straight from here, and we don't need to do any additional work to get it. What's the next thing after? So total sessions already stored.
Do we have like a way to retrieve the date that every session was on?
You talking about this data?
Yeah. So that date has. What happens when you click on one of those? Okay, so yeah, that would. So we also have. We can also use create the activity chart pretty easily.
I think we're skipping some. What is the next data point? The very next data point after total users. There were 2
unique users. Yeah, which there's unique customers down there.
This is for one single day, though.
Yeah, but it'd be pretty easy to aggregate all of them into one total sum.
Well, is that the goal to aggregate? What if there are 3 unique customers here, and 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 then you add it up and there are 12, but those are all. What if they're all the exact same 3 users each day?
Right.
So I'm thinking what we'll want to do. So how we get this is we do put in a date range and we say, hey, from this date to this date, return all the data.
Yeah.
So what we can do is each day when we run this, we can re-update these higher level data points and we can add any unique customer, and Alexa will return back to us, here's the total number of unique customers that you have.
Yeah.
So we will need a new daily query of SMAPI. Yeah, so we'll need a new daily query of SMAPI, and this is a cron job, so it won't be built inside of the app. This will just be a. Are you aware of what a cron job is?
No.
All right, so really quick, a cron job is a task that's run at a time interval. So it's a time-based job scheduler.
Okay.
When I have my Raspberry Pi that grows plants, each day the computer wakes up at 6 a.m. It runs a Python script, and then it goes back to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
It comes from the Greek chronos, or time, one of the Greek gods.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have a cron job that runs right now in GitLab. And let me see if I can show you this GitLab. We have a cron job that runs every single day and gets the data for the musicians. Let's see if it has it. Update. Nope, this is probably the wrong repo. Musician. I think it's musican. Now if we go in here to continuous integration, continuous deployment. So Rachel last year, she was working on continuous integration, continuous deployment. Update. Is update actually what it's doing? Schedules. Check certification status and updates data for live skills. Yeah, so right here, it runs, let's see what happens when I click play. So I'm running it again right now. So it should be running over here. Here it is. Okay, so, okay. Okay, so here's the cron job. Here's a successfully ran one. It looks like down here, we're getting an access token, skill ID preset, nothing to do, nothing to do, nothing to do. We get skills. I don't know what these nothing to do's are, but each day it is getting all of these musicians, and it is then getting the data and it's putting it in there once a day. And that's all controlled by something called a cron job. So the cron job runs automatically once a day. So I think what we can do is expand this existing cron job. And right now, let's see if I can look at what it's actually doing. cd ls cd functions, yes, ls code.slash. So what's the name of that pipeline? It's called cron_job. Let's go to get. I think I did this wrong. cd code.slash. Get out of here. We also don't need this one. So here's the one that we want. I'm looking for our GitLab CI. Okay. So now if we look for cron, where's cron? Schedules. cd functions, and then we run smappy.py. So let's check inside of the functions folder. And now let's find smappy.py and figure out what it does. Get publication status, as well as get certification status, as well as get metrics. So this is where right now we're running this each day, and we are getting metrics, and then we are writing metrics, or we're printing nothing to do.
Okay.
So right now we're getting the timestamp of now. We're getting a timestamp. And then it looks like we are getting 1 day, which is going to be a time delay of days equals 1.
Mm-hmm.
And then we try to get the skill metrics for that skill ID, with the start time being 1 day ago and then the end time being the current moment. And we get metrics. We want the live production skill, and the skill type is a custom skill. We save all of that to result. And then we return result for get metrics. So get metrics right now is grabbing the metrics for 1 single day, and it's the previous day. So I think we can copy the get metrics function, and we can make it get all time metrics. And then instead of just seeing this, which is a single day, it'll be the exact same metrics, except it will be aggregated across the entire lifetime of the skill.
Yeah. Yeah. That would work. Sounds like it would work.
Sounds like you might have concerns about it.
No, that sounds like it would work. I'm just trying to think in relation to everything else if that would be necessary to do.
Tell me more.
If we have a how does it classify what one does it use their Amazon account to classify them as a single user?
Yes.
So if we recorded, like, would we be allowed to record what the user is?
Would we be allowed to record what the user is?
Like who the user is, or would that be an invasion of privacy? Because if we can, if there is a single variable we can add, like user, maybe create a user ID for them, a unique user ID for them, and then in our data collection, where we would have every data point, every observation being one session. And so one of those variables can be user ID, and it would say, okay, this user used this session. So for one day, if we have the same user having a session at 3 different times, we could easily find out that that's one unique user, and that'll be very easy to do. So if that is a variable we can record what the user is, then it would be very easy to calculate the total unique users as well as total number of users.
We can definitely record the user ID.
Okay.
My question is, what are you going to do about past data? Because I get for future data you can associate a user ID, and you want to do that, and that's smart.
Mm-hmm.
But what about all the data that's already happened? That we have not recorded the user ID for.
I guess yeah, I mean, I guess that method would work. The one that you just talked about, we could do for that.
What's your concern with using this method?
My only concern was, is it necessary?
I think it's necessary because if we don't do that, then we're ignoring all of the data that already exists in the visualizations you're going to create.
That makes sense. Yep.
So this will be cron job, and we will clone the, what's the function we clone? We'll clone the get metrics, clone get metrics function, clone the get metrics function, and then that new get metrics function will be for overall data, and it's a one-time overall data. All right, so we've talked about total users and unique users. What's the next data point we need?
Total users, unique users, activity, and like I said, if we were able to format, I guess I'm talking about future data. We were able to format future data so that one observation represents one person using the experience, then that would be a piece of cake.
So are you imagining not getting these cron job readings for the daily readings anymore?
I'm imagining instead of a daily data point, we're getting every data point is one session, one person using the app, and then we get that data point and then a bunch of data about that session.
Okay. This seems like a new format, so I'm currently thinking, for what you're talking about, we, instead of trying to add that into this data collection, we'll create a new collection called user under user hyphen data or something, user hyphen data.
That sounds like it would be.
Where
Yeah.
each one is that. That way because this may prove valuable, and I don't want to do away with the pipeline that we already have for retrieving data.
Right. Yeah.
But to augment
Yeah.
it with the data that you're saying and to keep it separate, that way, if you want to use that data, you can. If you want to use this data, you can. And if you want to somehow bring them together, you also can.
That sounds great. Yeah.
And so what you're talking about wanting that user data for is for the activity graph?
Activity graph. I could make the usage graph with that.
So what data points do you need within so in the activity graph, we need to store, I'm going to say new collection, and it will be called user hyphen data.
Mm-hmm.
And then what subpoints do you need within user data? So each subpoint, each document. So each of these is called a document. A collection has documents, and each document has fields and sub-collections. So
Okay.
we have the new collection, which will be called user hyphen data.
Okay.
What will each document be? Each document is one session.
One session, yeah.
Is one session. So that means and sessions are one-to-one with users. So that means it's also just one user.
Yeah, so that one session would have like a value of what, like the user ID.
Okay, so we'll call this timestamp. And then inside of here, you'll have user ID, which will be Amazon.id. And we'll have a series of timestamps, and each of those will have a user ID. Is that correct?
What's that? What's that Q2397 thing?
Timestamp.
So
I typed random stuff because I don't timestamp.
So in reality, that would be a timestamp.
Correct.
It'd be a timestamp, and it would be okay. So it'd be like the timestamp, and then it would represent one session.
Right.
Okay. And then would there also be a data? Would that timestamp record the start or the end of the session?
Okay, so you would like an additional field in its start time.
Mm-hmm.
And you would like this to be it'll be a millisecond. It'll be the exact same type of thing. The timestamp up there. 2020 04 21 blah 45 56 dot blah blah blah. And then you also want an end time?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. What else do you need?
1 second. Can I? Let me share my screen real quick. Okay, so just to make sure we're on the same page, what I'm looking for, so like for a data set, what I would want. No, just we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So so each of these observations is one session, and then we would have date, time. So this session, I guess this would be start, date, time, end, date, time. So this would be 2020, 601, 00, 00. And then same format, the end date time. User ID. Location, if possible. And then probably some more, but like these are what the format that I'm thinking right now. So if I were to use a musician's experience right now, then by the end of the session, it will record. It will create. That will be one observation. It will add it to the Firebase. And it will record the start date time, the start time, end time, who I was, my ID, and my if that's possible, my location. So that way, when I'm making, say this activity plot, I can easily say, I can take, so say for date, June 1st, I can take account of every single. I could classify it by end time. I could take account of every single observation that had an end time on June 1st, and that would be the sum for that date. And then I would take the next one for June 2nd and June 3rd. And so it would be super easy to do that. And then user ID, obviously it'll be easy to calculate both of these. However, we'll be doing that other method for calculating this due to keeping past data, which is fine. I think it will be useful to calculate user ID because you never know what it could be useful for in the future. It'd be easy to put this usage graph because time seconds, all I do is end minus start and calculate the number of seconds, and I would do that for every single observation on just I guess overall time, or in the past month or in the past week, and it could show them the distribution of how long people are using it. If they're all using them for like not a long amount of time, or if there's other people who are using it for hours and hours and hours. And then if we can record someone's location or general area, it'd be super easy to create a map of number of users, people who are using their skill. And then I'm not sure how we can do this, but we talked about that this morning. So this is the format that I'm thinking about in my head right now. I don't know if that was what you were thinking, I was thinking, but...
Yeah, that's the same.
Okay.
You're visualizing a SQL database, but Firebase is no SQL database.
Yeah, that's what I was starting to get. So I'm not exactly sure how Firebase... I've never used Firebase before, but you do.
So the primary key, instead of being a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the primary key is your start date time.
Okay.
So your first column would get erased, and then it would just be the start date time as the key.
Gotcha.
But besides that, the same concept. And
Okay.
so the start date time would get recorded twice. It would both be the key and it would also be an attribute within it.
Gotcha.
I don't know. I think to make it easier and less computation on the end, and to reduce the number of times you are making a calculation of start minus n, we might as well, when we save it into the database, add in a session length attribute. So
Yeah. Yep.
beside location, just add session length, and then because it's more simple to just add it into the database when we're storing the data and do it once
Yep.
than to calculate it each time.
Agreed.
So location is not accessible unless we pop up a permission card and they give us permission, but that I don't expect users to want to give us their location and to go that extra step to open up their mobile phone, open up the Amazon Alexa app, and then give us permission to have their location if it doesn't provide them, the end user, any benefit. We want that data, but I don't. Do you see how it would provide the end user benefit for them giving us their location?
I have not thought about it. The person who is benefiting is the musician,
Right.
because they can see where their fan base is.
Right.
If there's some way to communicate that to them, that and make it make them feel like they're benefiting somehow because the musician is benefiting, possibly. But I agree with you. I don't think people would go out of their way to do that.
So this is a question we still got to think on. Location. How will we collect? Question mark. How is end user incentivized to provide? The two ways that are in my head right now. One is opening up that permission card, using what's built into Amazon Alexa, and pop up a permission card and say, hey, can we use your device address? And then the end user will have to open up their Alexa app on their mobile phone. Then they'll have to accept that. And then once they do that, we'll be able to grab that data and associate it with the user for all future requests. Alternatively, we could have the musician ask with their voice. When you launch the skill, we say, is this a new user? If it's a new user, the musician's voice comes out and says, hey, I see this is your first time. I'd like to get to know you a little bit better. What city are you from? And then the user says the name of a city, the name of a state, and we associate that with them. Instead of getting it from the device and having the device tell us, the user is telling us, which opens up the door to false data of the user saying that they're in California when in fact they're in Ohio. But it does reduce the complexity of them having to open up the mobile app and give us permission inside of the card, because they're just doing it with their voice.
I like that a lot better. I think we'd get, even though we can get some false data, I think overall we'd get more data and better data. Well, more is better in this case than the other way, because it would be pretty easy to tell, I think, if there's a false data point. I mean, if one person says like they're from California, the musician wouldn't really care about it anyways. Like if one person reported a false location. However, if there's like a very large concentration of people in California, unless a band of people got together and say, hey, let's all say we're from California, which is very unlikely. So I don't think the false reporting would be a huge issue.
So what we'll need to do to go with that route is we'll have to add an additional script so that when the musician is creating their skill, we'll have to have them read that question. of.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll have to give that to us, and that might be part of what they unlock if they pay for the premium service. Is
Mm-hmm.
that additional script? If they're paying
It
for it,
sounds,
then we unlock
sounds
that.
like that would be part of the premium, yeah.
S- hmm. 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 What is your location? Included in the language model for everybody. If they've unlocked it, we change the backend code. Because we don't want to have to recertify it. Thinking in my head how we implement this the best. We can cross this bridge. You want to implement it for one. So on yours, we will set up a custom creation process on your alexaformusicians.com. And when you're creating your skill for the one time, what you're talking about, the first milestone for your data engineering quest is to do it for one.
Mm-hmm.
So your one, the first musician you'll start with will be yourself. You'll record the voiceover. You'll upload songs, whatever they are. It won't go live, so it doesn't matter if you upload stuff from the internet.
Yeah.
Or just, again, yourself talking. It could just be an MP3 of you talking instead of songs. And then we can test this out and see how it shows up on the map.
Yep.
And then once we scale to all, I can extend it inside of everybody's. So I get what I'm trying to figure out then is when do I implement it into the flow for everybody? Because it's easy for me to give it to you and have you do it for a one-off, but I'm trying to think of how it will lie in the overall flow. But I guess we can ponder that and let it be answered at a later time. I'm thinking we'll either implement that when we scale to all or during payment.
Yeah. We can. Yeah. I agree. That sounds like it's because if we don't want to put too much effort in it if it's not worth it or it ends up not working out. So that sounds like a good plan.
Okay. So for now, we're just going to focus on your musician and getting that script and that language model in there, and we can hard code it for you. And then once we scale to all, we can figure out how we want to roll that out to everybody. Besides that, though, start time, end time, user ID, session length, those are all things that we can get you right now. We can get you those right now. Location's the only one that you're asking for that's going to require more thought when we want to integrate it into everybody.
Awesome. With those, I would be able to do this, and this. I'd be able to get those. I'd be able to create those 3 visualizations very easily.
And then the final 2 will be.
This would be with location,
Yep.
And this we haven't talked about yet.
Okay. Do you have additional things you'd like to discuss on the first 1, 2, 3, 4 visualizations, or are you ready to move on to how have users found out about the skill?
I'm ready to move on to that. I think also just overall, I mean, these were specific things that I thought would be neat to have, but I think I really want to be able to record all the possible data we can. That's within location would be a data point that's going to take some extra effort to record. And that goes the same with this right here. However, data points like start date, start time, end time, user ID, that won't take much effort at all to record. I want to have, in addition, every data point that is not hard to get at all. Just stuff that you could say, I want to add this, because it's just like naturally recorded by the devices. Because I might be able to look at what we have that's just given to us and say, okay, I can actually create something cool out of the other stuff.
So maybe an array of the intents they hit.
Yeah, yeah.
An intent would be them saying, where can I listen to your music? How can I connect or play song? So
Mm-hmm.
if someone launches a skill and all they say is play song, inside of your map that you have down below, there's an additional column called intents.
This is
Yeah. And so then in there, in the first row, it might just be play song. It might be an array of one thing, and it might just be play song. And then for the second one, it might be how can I connect and where can I listen to your music. And then the third one might be all three of them: play song, how can I connect, where can I listen to your music. And the fourth might just be unhandled. They said something random. They didn't come into any of our boxes. They said something totally outside of what we asked for or what we gave them options for.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
intent can get saved at the same point. That can get tracked across the session. And then we can save that again. And I think all of this is a middleware hook, so that this is something I need to note for implementing this in the engineering middleware hook.
Yeah.
Intent.
And you can also think, even all this data, even though I may not use all of it, it's good like for you to have it at least in the future, because you never know when you might be able to use it. So just to be able to have all the data from now forward is a huge benefit. Even if I'm not, me personally, if I'm not using it right now in this app.
Another thing I think we can probably capture are unhandled. I think we have a catch-all. So that if they say something that doesn't map anywhere, I think we can actually grab the words that they say.
Yeah.
So that would be an array as well of random phrases that a user would say that is not mapped. So if intents would be anything that's mapped to something that we already have defined in our language model, whereas catch-all is unmapped. So that would give the musician insight on what are they saying that I'm not preparing for. Oh, they're asking me what the name of my next album is. Oh, they're asking me what my next tour date is. It seems like people are really asking me this, so maybe I should include this in my Alexa skill. Yeah, both of those, intents and catch-all, I think answer that question. What are people asking? Oh, okay. Well, yeah, then just the last one is answering that question. Together, they're both answering what are people asking for. The second one is saying what are people asking for that I'm not prepared for.
Yeah.
The first one is saying what are people asking for that I have prepared for. I want to affirm that we have already created routes that are valuable for users.
I guess we can also be able to tie into this. What do I have on there that nobody really cares about, that nobody's using, nobody's asking for, and is just maybe jargon.
Yes. Additional redundant information. Right now, the songs play at random, so it's not controlled by the user, so I'm not sure it's relevant to tell the user what their most listened to song is.
Right. Would it be in the future?
Yeah, with one of the features we're coming out with that would be relevant, but that feature has not been released to production yet, so no musicians have it.
Yeah, but if that is something that is coming out in the future, it could be beneficial to start recording it now,
Agreed. Yeah, the engineer that's working on it is. Let me actually. He's been sending messages. Where's Ryan, Cody, and Samir? Yeah, he's working on it right now, and it. I'm sure he'll be done with it. He should be done with it before the end of May.
Mhm.
But that requires me to answer him. Okay. So what else do we have? What else? You're looking for additional data points right now?
Yeah.
We're already getting start and end time. We're already getting intents. What other things can we capture in a conversation that will be relevant to a musician?
It doesn't even have to be relevant. Like, obviously, we want all the relevant information, but even if it's not relevant, maybe you don't think it's relevant, it could still be useful at some point in the future. You just never know. And if we don't have the data, then that's why I'm saying I think it would be beneficial to literally record everything you think that is possible to record.
All right, I'm stealing screen share.
Go for it.
So when you say that, am I in the right place? Let's see if this runs. So here's actually what we get. So right now we have the server running. When a user says launch a musician, here's what we get. There's a request and a response. Request is what the user says to Alexa. Response is what Alexa says back. So here's our response, here's our request. So inside of the request we have the version. We have the session, whether it's a new session or an existing session. So if we go again, let's request a button. Let's go connect intent, and let's just run connect intent. So now session is new is false because it's not a new session. We're continuing an existing conversation.
Yep.
We get a session ID. So this is an ID associated with the session. We get an application ID. That's the musician's skill. So that should already be known because it's in there. So I'm just kind of running through this. So here's the user ID that you're talking about. For while I'm inside of this debugger console, it's Jovo debugger user, but in the live environment, it's going to be a user ID that uniquely identifies them.
Cool.
So that's all the session user, and now we have context within the system. Again, an application ID, a user ID, a device ID, which should be the same as the user ID. Like those, there should be a one-to-one correlation between a device ID and a user ID. Actually, that's not true because one user can have multiple devices, so it's a one-to-n relationship between a user ID and a device ID. So if the same user can talk to a musician across multiple devices. So if they have 4 Alexa devices in their home, device ID can be recorded to share. One user. So that could be another thing that you log. You've got unique users. You could have unique devices, and that could accumulate the device IDs. Supported interfaces will give us greater detail in terms of what the capabilities of that device is and what modality are they talking to us on. So does the device have audio player? Does it have a display? So does it have a screen on it, or is it just a smart speaker? Does it have the capacity for video? Can it use the Alexa presentation language? Those kind of things. So device questions, like questions specific to the device, might be relevant to be able to tell the user or the musician, these are the devices that people are using. Oh, it looks like a lot of my listeners are using screens. Why don't I implement a music video because I can play a music video for them? Or alternatively, oh, nobody's using a screen, so let's really focus on the audio brand and focus less on the visual component.
Yeah, this looks like if it would be easy to just record all of this. That's perfect. I was even thinking as you started talking about like adding these arrays, like an intent array.
Yep.
I started thinking, what if instead of um, having each observation be a single session, each observation is an interaction either from the user to Alexa or from Alexa to the user. So like we have, obviously we would repeat, like it would record the exact time that that the user asked something. Obviously that you would still record the user ID, location if possible. Session length we would have to calculate instead, but intent or an array, instead of trying to add like an array variable, which may be which could possibly be difficult to work with. That is now just a single value because the intent is what that person said, or it would be a cache.
So in conversation, I think what you're talking about is a turn, which is a request and a response together.
Yeah. And I just thought about that as we were talking about, right? And it could be that could be more beneficial than recording a single observation as a session.
The biggest challenge I think we'll face with that is the amount of time it'll take to write to the database. Because if we're writing each time a response happens, that means before Alexa responds to the end listener, she has to write to an external database, which will probably take a response time from half of a second to 1.5 seconds, which in a conversation is a big slowdown. And it changes the assistant from feeling like a real-time conversation to, oh, wow, this is... And that's assuming that they have a fast internet connection. I'm in my attic, and things that would usually take like half a second might take 3 seconds just because my internet connection is further away. So this changes how we save the data. Instead of it being at the very end, when the user's already leaving and they really don't care if Alexa responds quickly or slowly because in the user's mind I'm already exiting. So we can take that time to save it. Saving like this might run into the problem of a very slow conversation, which will feel inauthentic to the end user.
Yep.
So the alternative to trying to actually store it into Firebase every time would be to save this as a session attribute within the... So keep it on the... Instead of trying to write to Firebase each time a turn happens, save the request and the response as a session attribute. And that session attribute... it'll just save it as a session attribute, and then at the end of the conversation, it writes all of those to the database at once. So my biggest concern is timing around this. If you think that it's valuable to aggregate it that way, and you don't think it would slow it down in terms of how fast you can aggregate it to create the visualization when a musician logs in to view their data, we can explore this, and you and I can have a test session where we try it where we save each conversation, and then we try it where we save each turn, and then we try it where we just save once at the conversation, and we look at, okay, how long is this taking? How long is this taking? Does it make sense to do it this way or the other way?
Right.
So I think this conversation of whether we save it by the turn or save it by the conversation needs to be another call like this, where I'm inside of the code and I'm modifying it, and you're playing around either in the Alexa console, or maybe we have you download the Alexa app on your phone, or maybe you get an Amazon Alexa so that you can test on device to really act like a user and get a real-time feel for how slow that is. But I'm interested in exploring what you're saying more.
Okay. Do you think that it would be beneficial to have it like that? I mean, I that was just an idea I had. I know the more you can break down your data in order to record it, as long as it's well formatted, it shouldn't really slow down the calculation side of it, but it can make it easier to do things and expand what you're able to do with it.
The philosophical choice we'll need to make is, do we value increased data, or do we value saving the user time? Or maybe not philosophical binary, but more thinking of it as a scale. Where do we want to lie in terms of valuing user time and saving no data and making the conversation as quick as possible? Or valuing the data that we want to save and making the conversation slower in order to save the maximum amount of data?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think the value is in the user experience, because we're not going to get any data if the user is so frustrated with the time, they just stop.
Exactly.
But I mean, hopefully we can do both. Get the best of both worlds, where we don't slow down the conversation, but we can also record more data. So you said if instead of Alexa between every single interaction, instead of Alexa trying to write it to Firebase, if she records as a session, like inside the Alexa, and then after the session uploads it to Firebase.
Exactly.
Would that slow down the conversation at all? Is that what you're saying?
That's another question, because if we're saving it all inside of the device, that means each time the user talks to the device, it has to say, oh, okay, well, we're increasing the amount of memory that we're saving on the device.
Yeah.
So the longer the conversation, the more Alexa needs to remember. And then at the end of the conversation, she then has to take a large amount of memory and upload it to the cloud, if it's a long conversation.
Yeah. And I guess in the future, it could be, one session could be hours and hours. Like, when we're thinking about the musician experience, he wants it to be an interaction, and it could be the user listening to this musician for hours. And so that experience will go on for hours, and the memory. So that would be a something to consider.
So I'm thinking our next call is going to be us pair programming in terms of saving user data to Firebase and playing around with three different things.
Mm-hmm.
Save, what would you call it? Process data. So one, we save. Let me stop sharing. Or am I still sharing? Stop presenting. So three things. Either one, we store everything based on a turn, and that's going to be the maximum amount of data, and we save it at the turn. So each turn we write to Firebase, and we immediately offload that memory into Firebase, which will slow down the conversation because we're adding a database call in between each turn. Option two, we still save turn data, but instead of saving it at the end of each turn and writing to Firebase at the end of each turn, speed up the interaction by saving it on the device. And then at the end of the overall session, we write to Firebase. And how we carry that between the individual turns is we save them as a session attribute. So instead of the same, we're saving the exact same data in these first two. The only difference is when we're storing it to Firebase, when we're storing it to the database. Third option, session. Instead of storing everything from the turn, we process the data more throughout the conversation. And we reduce the amount of data that we store to highlight some of the more important things, to store it as an array instead of this. And then we save that once at the end of the conversation. And that, I think, was the original concept that we were talking about, is saving it as a session.
Yeah.
So we play with all three of those and then figure out what would be best.
Okay.
Because that'll kill two birds with one stone. It will be the opportunity to integrate these data points into your first musician, as well as figuring out how often and what data we want, how we want to save this data to Firebase.
Right. Yeah.
And then those other questions, so that I think will be the next thing we'll want for a pair programming session. Thinking of how to get that final data set of where did you discover the Alexa skill?
Yeah.
I don't know if that comes from that data comes from the voice assistant.
No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't. We would have to create an arbitrary way to measure, like, this. If they do this, then this classifies them as, like,
A Facebook user or
figuring out what the skill was. Like, oh, they clicked on this link, and now we register that as they just found out about the skill. So we would have to create an arbitrary thing like that, and then.
And in that case, that also means that this will be an additional collection, and it'll be called discoverability.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like it sounds like arbitrary data, which means that it's not going to be formatted in the same way as these data points. So do you think
right, yeah.
Do you think this discoverability data should be lying inside of the user data or lying somewhere else?
It would be somewhere else. It would not be. Yeah, I mean, it would, because we wouldn't be able to register it as the same user, because it would be, like you said, they're not using their Alexa device. This would be someone clicking on a link. It wouldn't be registered to any user. It would be, I guess it would just be like a count. Like, how many times was this link clicked from here? How many times was this link clicked from here? And we would just, like, list the top 5 places that a user has clicked. And so I guess we would count repeat users as well. So I guess we could classify it as traffic. Where are they getting the most traffic from in their advertisements? Rather than discoverability. But a musician can kind of interpret it loosely interpret it as discoverability.
Yeah,
it would know where people are seeing or where he's reaching people.
Tell me why you think it should be called traffic and not discoverability.
Because the way I can't imagine a way right now where we wouldn't be able to not count repeat users. So, like, if one person clicked on this link 5 times,
yeah,
I don't know how we can register that as one user versus just 5 separate, like, clicks. You know, at least for, like, a simple, keeping it simple.
So the user does not need to go through a link to enable this application. They can just use their voice and say, open Ladies Love Lonnie or open Trigno Music, and then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what I'm trying to say is, I'm never going to say, Alexa, open Ladies Love Lonnie, if I didn't get that information from somewhere saying, okay, if I say that to Alexa, then I will enter in an app with an entire experience.
Yeah.
And as a musician, I want as many people to know. I want all my fans to know that this exists and that they can do this. And so that's on the advertising side for the musician.
Uh-huh.
So if they want to increase their reach, and say, okay, this advertising method for me is working, that's leading to more and more people using my experience, I think it would be beneficial for them to know, this is working for them. This is helping them reach out to more people than these other methods.
Mm-hmm.
That's where this idea came from.
Okay. If they are trying to figure out how to launch the skill, would you call that discoverability, even if it's not their first time doing it and they are a return customer? Would you call that them trying to discover how to launch?
That's why I'm calling it traffic instead of discoverability. Because if like we don't really know if it's their first time. I can't think of a way to figure it out if it's their first time clicking on.
We can't.
I'm saying clicking on a link because the way I'm thinking of it right now is kind of the first thing I thought of is like web based. There's like a web page that has instructions,
Right.
information on this experience.
Right.
And then they have links on like the Twitter, their Facebook, their Instagram that says you click on this link.
Can you still see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have this right here on our leaderboard. We have these tweet buttons. So if I'm hearing you right, it would be something like this. Worldwide, she has 75 conversations. Try it. Just say this. And then right now we've got this leaderboard link where it takes them to this leaderboard that we're looking at. But instead of interactivealbum.app/leaderboard, I think in what we're talking about, we changed this to /AlvaMU.
Yeah.
And then that would, they'll all take us to the exact same page. The only difference is it'll grab whatever the URL is, and it'll say, oh, this is AlvaMU. Let me grab all the data from Firebase. Let's put her image in there. Let's put her like literally how I'm populating this tweet. We're just populating it by filling in those variables. We'll do the same thing on the web page. We'll give them the instructions on how to launch it, and then this, because of this URL, we'll know to save it inside of this, whether we call it discoverability or traffic. Where did you come from? We'll say website.
Yep.
And in the same, I don't know about those Facebook pixels that Don was talking about. Well, so tell me, in this case that I'm describing where a musician clicks the tweet button and then the tweet opens up, and then, so AlvaMU tweets this and it has this link. Although they discovered the tweet, they discovered the skill on the website.
Yeah, we would want to record the number of people that have clicked on that link in the tweet.
Okay, so additional, actually, this might be an even better step. AlvaMU /Twitter. Because now on the website, we'll not only know the musician to script or to skin the web page. This we can grab from the URL when they come here, and then we can say, oh, well, they came from Twitter. And in the same page, if we made a Facebook button, then we can go Facebook.
That sounds like it would make it easy. Yeah, I like that.
Okay. So the goal will be to direct all traffic onto the website for them to launch it. But the URLs that we assign, whether that's the Facebook pixel link or a tweet or a LinkedIn post, those will all have inside of the URL the source traffic. So that way we know we can use that and store it inside of Firebase. And then over here, I guess if they directly just went to AlvaMU and did not go to any of these other things, we would just classify it as website.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's /Facebook or /LinkedIn or /Twitter or anything else after the artist, that is what would be saved in here, is whatever is after the artist.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so it's kind of I guess we would have to come out with like a discrete number of options, like if we want to say, okay, like post a link to Instagram. If they click that, it creates an Instagram post, and then for people to be able to click on that link. So we could do like Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever social media platform we want, and it would basically be like those would be the only options, kind of like to record. Like those would be the only things that we are recording, would be the traffic coming in from those areas. But I think that's good. Like that is, like if the goal is recording where people are finding out about this skill, if that's the goal, then this is a good start. This is a very good start.
Okay.
It's kind of hard to measure. Like,
so I think
obviously the other ways people find out would be by like word of mouth, which we can't really would be very difficult to record.
I don't know how we would track that.
Yeah, which is why I'm saying I think this is like good, very good for.
Okay, so I think our next call will be integrating these session attributes of start time, end time, user ID, session length, and doing that across 3 different trials of save those 3, either saving the turn or saving the overall session. After that, you'll be able to play with that data, and it'll be inside of your app. So each time you launch it, it'll be recording that data, so you can then test it a lot to populate data and to be able to visualize. The next call following that, we can work on the website and getting those other links, and we can play around with that. So I think this, to get you all the data, is going to take at least 2 more calls of pair programming.
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
And until then, I will work with the data we already have.
Yeah.
And I'll be able to create those 3 plots.
Yeah. So have you started to figure out how to export data from here, or how to read data from here and read it into your...
I just started doing that this morning. I think I'm trying to use R, which looks possible. Though from looking around, it looks like it would be easier with Python. But I'm not sure how easy it is to create apps with Python, as it is with R. And since I already know R,
is it possible to pass data from Python to R?
So you're saying Python would read in the Firebase data in R, and it would pass it to R? Possibly, but I don't know if that would be easier or harder than, because like you can do it in R, and I'm figuring that out right now. Because I know it's easier in Python. I don't know if
Firebase is built on JavaScript. Firebase is meant to be used with JavaScript. So let's Firebase. So you looked up Firebase R?
Yeah, I looked up like how to read in data, how to read Firebase data into R.
Connecting R to Google Firebase, project title, connecting R, Fire data, a Firebase API. Persistent data storage and transfer with R can be complicated and time consuming. While there are great packages to connect R to databases like those, the databases itself need to be hosted and maintained. To implement database-based login system in Shiny now probably takes 2 weeks of work. Preparing an IoT. The Google team took that common problem not only of R and created Firebase. Firebase is an online database that is not only intuitive to integrate with apps and web applications, but can also be used to build user registration login systems with persistent data. Think about Shiny, or to transfer data between IoT devices via Firebase directly to an R environment. Between IoT devices via Firebase directly to an R environment. Writing an intuitive R to Firebase connector enables R to be used in new cross-platform real-time applications. That's why we strongly believe Fire Data Package will improve this. Related work, R Universe offers the HTTR package. Details of your coding project. Expected R is one of the strongest players in data science. The aim is to connect its strength in data analysis with the actual data. And I think that's what you're trying to do.
Yep.
By making it easier. Final product, the Fire Data Package will connect. Now, this word "will" is making me think that it's not created.
Not out yet. Yeah, that would actually make sense because when can you figure out when this was last updated?
2017.
Oh, okay. So maybe it is out. But I'm looking at the package library and I can't find the. It doesn't look like the Fire Data package exists, but there's a Firebase package, which may be the same thing. Just
this
names
Fire
different.
Data package? Fire Data?
Yeah, I don't see a Fire Data package, but I do see a Firebase package. So either Firebase may not be out yet, or is Firebase. Or I could probably, I'll look into, because it looks like it's a GitHub repository. It may not be on Cron, which is what R uses. It's like the package library, it's like the cloud package library, and if I want to download a package, I just say install this from Cron, and it downloads it into my RStudio. Fire data may not be a package in Cron, but I can also download it directly from GitHub if it's finished.
Alexa for musicians. At Arthur, potential library to pull data from Firebase to RStudio.
Awesome.
So if you can that I think is your next goal, is to figure out how to pull data from Firebase into R.
Yep.
Because we've been talking about getting the data you need into Firebase, and I'm going to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting of getting the data you need into Firebase.
Mm-hmm.
But do you accept responsibility for figuring out how to get data from Firebase into your RStudio or into wherever you decide to create your visualizations?
Yep. And as well as getting it from RStudio to React.js.
Great. Okay. Okay. So what is the next thing that you're going to be researching and investing your time into?
Figuring out how to import the data from Firebase into R.
Following our call, next step for Arthur, figure out how to import data from Firebase to RStudio. Deliverable, screencast of R code running and Firebase data logged. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
My goal right now is to take a big thing and to make it the smallest possible amount of work possible in order to prove that progress is being made.
Yep.
Do you think that there are sub-steps that we need between this, or do you think this is the smallest possible amount of work in order to prove progress and to validate the hypothesis that we can connect?
Can you read it again?
What's that?
Can you read it again?
Oh, you can't see my screen, can you?
No.
That would be helpful. That's on me. And I've also sent it in Slack.
Screencast of R code running in Firebase data log. So is that like after I create like a visualization for my musician?
Even smaller. I'm just talking about take this library, or take a library, import it into RStudio, and then just prove, hey, R is now reading from Firebase, and I can log the data inside of RStudio. I don't even need you to create a visualization. I just want you to prove that you can pull the data from Firebase and get it into R.
Cool.
Is that something that's doable?
Yeah, doable. And if it's...
Do you have any expectations of a time frame?
Yeah, I was just thinking it. I would love to get it done today. Mm-hmm. It may be harder than it may end up being more difficult than I hope it is.
Yep.
In which case, I would hope to get it done tomorrow.
Okay.
But goal is today.
So let's make it 5 p.m. on May 22nd.
Sure. Yep.
Friday, May 22, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So by 5 p.m. tomorrow, you will have sent us a screencast in this channel of R code running and then just Firebase data being logged.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What else do you need from me in order to accomplish this?
What screencast software do you like to use?
So I am currently using OBS Studio, and that not only can you still see my screen?
Yeah.
So this is currently connected to Restream, so I'm streaming to Restream, and it's going all over the internet, what we're saying right
Okay.
now. But there's also a record button. So Samir uses just the recording button. He doesn't stream it. He just
Gotcha.
records. Another tool, the main tool I use if I'm not going to record is Simple Screen Recorder. What I like about Simple Screen Recorder is over here, I have a hotkey Control R. So as you can see up here, there's this little like pause icon. Do you see it up top? This little circle.
Oh, yeah.
So when I hit Control R, it shifts into a red recording icon.
Yep.
And now it gave me error message, too many audio samples, dropping samples to keep the video in sync. So I'm going to cancel that because I'm live streaming and I'm trying to record. I'm doing way too much for this little laptop. But so there's another one that I use, but both of these are Linux based because I'm running on Ubuntu on Linux. So I guess maybe I should have started with this instead of telling you what I use. Screencast tool, because you're on Windows, right?
Mm-hmm.
Windows 10.
Yep. OBS Studio is only available for Linux.
Maybe.
It's a free open source cross-platform streaming and recording. OBS Studio says it's cross-platform. Versions of OBS Studio available for Microsoft Windows, Mac OS, and Linux.
Yeah, so maybe start with OBS. I think a lot of people use OBS. It's an open source tool, so like we're big supporters of open source.
Cool.
So yeah, let's just go with OBS, and I'll add that into Slack.
Yeah, and Simple Screen Recorder is Linux only.
Okay. Screencast using OBS, and are you good with figuring that out, or should I add a link to OBS in the thread?
No, I got it open right here.
Okay, that was.
I just have to download it, and that's it, right?
That was a great question. What else you need?
That's it. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, so we have two options. We can either set up the time for our next call right now, or we can wait until you complete this task, and at that point we can set up the time for the next call where we get in this session and do actual saving of data and you getting the Alexa. I do think in order to do this testing, we want you to have an Alexa device.
Mm-hmm.
So I have some extra ones. If maybe we could meet halfway. If you would like to grab an Alexa device from me, we could meet halfway between Cincy and Columbus, and I can give that to you.
Is Dad coming up on Saturday to work on Brinker?
Bam. Let me send him a text right now. That way I'm going to create a group chat between the three of us. That way, that was a great idea. That saves all of us time. Paul Sweetman, Arthur Sweetman, check. Hey everyone. My phone's not doing voice typing today, and it's really frustrating me because that's how I do 90% of what I do. Hey everyone. Arthur needs an Alexa device for his work with voice. First, we decided Dad, we think the best way is for me to give Dad an Alexa device this Saturday. Is that okay with you, Dad? Question mark. Cool. Now it's in there. All three of us are aware of this conversation. That was a great idea. So we were getting you an Alexa device. You have a task to work on. So I'm thinking this next call that we'll have in order to start doing this data will be Monday.
Yeah. We could even do it tomorrow because I know the sooner the better.
You won't have a device.
If I'm not done with my task, I think we could still talk about whatever our next conversation. What will our next conversation be over the what will it be over?
It's going to be you testing and seeing how slow it is between the different
Right,
tools. So
right, between the
you need the
different
device.
collections. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I think we can still do that. I mean, I'm guessing that'll be an hour, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours.
Yeah.
Which so the sooner the better, because the sooner we figure out what works, the sooner we I know you would be have the opportunity to get started.
Right.
And there's no need to wait until after I have this done. So we can do it tomorrow if you want.
I appreciate you pushing to do this quickly. I'm screaming no because there's a hell of a lot of other things I need to be focusing my energy into. So tomorrow when we do this, you'll need to be testing inside of the Alexa console.
Oh. So I will need an Alexa. So we have to wait till Monday anyways.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, you can do it tomorrow, but you'll be testing inside of a website instead of on an actual device.
Yeah, no, let's do Monday.
Okay. So I'm gonna replicate. Let me see what my schedule looks like on Monday. I usually do stand-ups at 9, and then after stand-ups, I take a walk with my oatmeal from 10 to 11.
Monday's Memorial Day. Does that change anything?
That's funny. We're live streaming, and I don't know what Memorial Day means, and I don't mean any offense, but me as an individual, it does not impact me, and I do not change what I do. I am a single male that's age 23, and my family does not change what I do on this Monday. Duplicate this event. Let's do Monday at. Does it impact you? I guess I should seek to understand. For me, it does not impact me. Every day is Saturday and Sunday are the only 2 days I treat differently. Monday through Friday are the exact same day for me.
No. I mean, what time are you thinking?
We can shift it for. I think we should shift it forward to 11 a.m. instead of 11:30.
Okay.
Because I am, and then I would like a hard cutoff. Oh no, we are doing it on Monday. We'll make it a 2-hour block because I think if the meeting is any longer than 2 hours, we'll start to see diminishing returns in terms of productivity and what we're getting done.
Yep.
Maybe even shorter. Like I would like a hard cutoff time. That way we can make sure that we're trying to be active and goal oriented during the call. That way, because there are a lot of things that I need to be focusing my attention on, and this project is just one of those things.
Yep. Let's do an hour and a half then.
Okay. It is much easier for me to make commitments on like a daily basis if they are shorter. If they're long commitments, I'm going to need to have more space in between them. That way I can focus attention on other things. If they're if you wanted a half an hour call, I could probably commit to a half an hour call every single day if we made those small and modular. If you want an hour and a half call, it's going to have to be like maybe 2 of those a week, at most like 3 of those a week.
Yep. Yeah. Cool.
Just for future reference. We'll start. I think you're right. We'll start off with an hour and a half. Cool. Okay, so 11 to 12:30 p.m. Hour and a half. Already got your email in there. And instead of data collection design, we are good with design. We are now on saving data testing. Alexa data storage pair programming plus testing. Can I add an attachment? Can I screenshot these notes? Ooh, I can. I'm going to take a photo of this page and attach it. Okay, and no, I can't. Gotta attach it from Drive. That stinks. I'm gonna upload this to Drive. Drive. 8% battery. This is projects. This is Alexa for musicians. We're going to call this team. Inside of there, we have no items, so we're going to add a folder called, what did we call this quest? Musicians by the numbers?
Music by the numbers.
Music by the numbers, thank you. Music by the numbers. And then inside of there, I'm going to upload this image. It is uploading. It looks like it's uploaded, attaching from my drive, from projects, Alexa for musicians, team, musicians by the numbers. Okay, so now I've attached that image. So the notes I took today, save, send. You should have just gotten the invite, and the invite should contain the page of notes that I just took from today. So hopefully we can kind of align and be on the same page for Monday, so that I'm aware of what, mostly so that I'm aware, because when I come into a meeting and
Yeah. What do you need me to be prepared with on Monday?
have the Alexa device, have Firebase open so that you can watch where the data is being stored, and
I'll have hopefully the data report.
Really, it's going to be me doing a lot of the driving. It's going to be me and my code a lot, and it's going to be you kind of testing the device. So, honestly, it'll probably be a lot of me coding and you testing. So, be prepared with a bottle of water. Be prepared with your Alexa device. Have Firebase open. Though that should be it. Water for you to stay hydrated. Have you drank any water during this call?
Nope.
3 sips. I invite you to take 3 sips. I'm not going to tell you to take 3 sips. I invite you. I also didn't drink any water. Good?
Good.
Awesome. I will see you on Monday. Well, I'll see you tomorrow at stand-ups.
Awesome.